Thanks for stopping by Vintage Audio Review and checking out this episode on turntables. So I got this idea from watching another video on YouTube where a question was asked about how long a phono cartridge could last. So I got a Pioneer PL50 turntable circa early 70s, and it has the original phono cartridge that it came with in it. And so I figured it would be kind of fun to check out that turntable as well as some other turntables that I had and see just how they perform today. So the Pioneer PL50 was given to me by a friend. It did require a belt replacement, and if you haven't replaced a rubber belt on a cassette deck or a turntable, they can be a gooey mess. So that wasn't fun, but it was worthwhile to get the turntable up and running. So I measured all the turntables using this stereo review test record, SRT 14A, which I purchased in probably 1980, early 80s or late 70s. It says copyright 1979, so that would give you an idea as to how old it is. And it does have several tones on it. For these tests I used the 400 Hertz tone as well as the 1 kilohertz tone. And I measured the performance using my handy dandy QA402 audio analyzer. I also did listening tests on all 4 turntables. So one of the turntables I used is not vintage, it's a Pyle PLTT3BU USB turntable, and it does have both line and phono preamp outputs as well as a USB output. And I had bought that several years ago and used it for recording some of my old albums, and I was kind of curious how it did compared to the others. So the Pioneer PL50 is a manual turntable, although it does auto lift at the end of the record most of the time. It has no speed adjustments other than 33 and 45, so you cannot vary the pitch of the motor. So one of the turntables I also looked at is a Pioneer PL600. It is the direct drive model, not the belt drive model. They have another PL600 turntable which uses a belt drive, which is not this one. This one does not have any pitch adjustments as well. And this one I got from my friend Ian, who was in episode 5. I also looked at one of my own turntables, which is a Pioneer PL510S for silver. It does have pitch controls for the speed adjustments. So all the listening tests I did were with the turntable as it stood with the cartridge that was on it. So you're listening to both the cartridge and the turntable, and it is not an ideal test, but nonetheless that is what I wanted to do because I did not want to swap out the cartridge head shells and readjust them each time. They sounded playing the same records, which were Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the Mobile Fidelity version, as well as Street Pajamas' There Ain't No Gold in Jersey album. They were all listened to at different levels, and overall I thought they sounded decent. So the Pyle USB turntable, using the phono preamp output into the Carver CT7 tuner, seemed to be the most anemic of the bunch. I don't know how you measure anemic, but it seemed like the appropriate word to use. So I did have to boost the gain of the Carver preamp to get the Pyle to sound better, because it does have a lower output, as you will see in the upcoming data plots. The Pioneer PL600 sounded fine and might have a little bit of an edge over the other turntables and cartridges. On the Pioneer PL50 turntable, it has the original cartridge that came with it in early 1970, but it has the original one, and that's kind of what prompted this. The Pioneer PL600 had a Pickering XV-15/625E cartridge. The cartridge that came on the Pyle USB turntable is a Sanyo MG09 cartridge, and for the Pioneer PL510 turntable, it has a newer Audio-Technica AT-VM95C cartridge on it. So once again, it's not really a great A/B comparison test that will require setting up different levels for each turntable cartridge combination, and I do not have that equipment at this time to be able to do that. So it's kind of basing what I heard in my audio memory. Overall, I thought the PL600 sounded very nice, as did the PL50, as well as the PL510S. Overall, I don't really have a favorite. Of the turntables. I think they all sounded good with the exception of the USB turntable, which did not. I will put together a summary chart of each of the 4 turntables and their measurements, and then there will be actually raw data you can see as well, and I'll put little chapter markings so you can jump to them if you are interested in just seeing the end results or individual plots. So once again, I thank you for stopping by and checking out Vintage Audio Review. Leave your comments below as well as subscribe. Have a great day or night. So what I like about this turntable, the PL600, is once you close the dust cover, all the controls are accessible from the front. So this is the PL600 1 kilohertz THD SNR data, and this is the 440 hertz THD and SNR data. So what we're seeing here is the 1 kilohertz test tone from the stereo review test record, and the center of the band's 1000 hertz, and the marker number 2 is about 990 hertz. And you can see that this is anything but steady. It's going to change amplitude a little bit because the test tone increases in amplitude. So right now we're going to look at the output of the PL600 turntable, and it's going into the QA402 analyzer, and the source is a stereo review test record SRT14, and it has a 440 hertz tone on it, which would be indicated where the 1 is in the center of the trace. That is 440 hertz, and we're somewhere where cursor 2 is, or marker 2, which is about 433.7 hertz. You can see it's fairly steady, but it is off frequency. So here is the Pioneer 510S. The S is for silver. First off, you have to open that cover up, raise the tone arm, move the tone arm over, press down, and there it's playing. If I want to stop playing, tone arm up, move it back over, and turn it off. So here is the PL510S THD and SNR data at 1 kilohertz, as well as the 440 hertz THD and SNR data. So once again, we're looking at the 1000 hertz signal, but it's on the PL510 turntable, the Pioneer turntable, and you can see it's varying between about 1000 hertz and maybe 996 hertz. So it's pretty close to 1,000, but it is moving around just a little bit. So right now we're looking at the 440 hertz tone on the PL510 turntable, and we can see it's pretty well at 440 hertz. 439.45 is what I'm showing, and it's fairly stable. So this is the Pioneer PL50 turntable, the oldest of the bunch. And in order to get him going, turn it on. It's fairly nice dampening motion. So here's the PL50's 1 kilohertz THD and SNR response, and here is the PL50's 440 hertz THD and SNR response. Looking at the 1000 hertz reference tone from the SRT14A stereo review test record on the Pioneer PL50 turntable. The 1000 hertz tone is increased throughout the test by a little bit, and you can see that it's pretty well stable. The frequency, that is pretty well stable around about 1013 hertz. So it is off, but it's only varying a few hertz from that. And this is a basic belt drive turntable with just a motor to control the speed. So what we're looking at here is the 440 hertz reference tone from the SRT14A stereo review test record on the Pioneer PL50. And we would like things to be where marker 1 is at 440 hertz, but we're actually at 446 hertz where marker 2 is, and we can see that the variation is only plus or minus maybe 1 or 2 hertz from the 446 hertz mark. So this is the Pyle PLTT3BU USB turntable. It's fully manual. There's the power, start, stop it. Raise the tone arm, move it over. Now notice the lack of dampening when I lower it. Boom, it's down there. And here is the pitch control and the speed control. So on the back of the Pyle USB turntable, you have your phono or line level output switch. Here is your gain control, which must be for the USB output because it did not affect either these two outputs. And here is your lawn cable, which measures in at 2 foot. And this is the Pyle 1 kilohertz THD and SNR data. And here we have the Pyle 440 hertz THD and SNR data. So what we're looking at is the SRT14A test records 1 kilohertz tone on a Pyle PLTT3BU USB turntable. This is the built-in phono preamp output, and it's holding fairly close to 1000 hertz, and you can see the level increase throughout the test a little bit. So what we're looking at is the 440 hertz test tone from the SRT14A test record, and this is on a Pyle PLTT3BU USB turntable, and this particular signal is from the phono preamp output. It has a built-in phono preamp. It also has a line level output as well, but it's holding pretty good at around 438 hertz, maybe 440 hertz, and the output is a bit lower than some of the other turntables that we've looked at. So here is a summary that shows the results for each of the 4 turntables as far as what the
measured frequency was for 440 hertz and 1 kilohertz, as well as the minimum output voltage for each frequency, as well as the max THD expressed as a percent for each frequency, as well as the minimum SNR for each frequency. The best performance was highlighted in yellow, and it looks like the PL50, that 50-year-old turntable that I have, performs the best.